welcome everybody to Office Hours this week. It's kind of a return to our traditional format of a few weeks ago. I know we had a couple, two or three uh, weeks there where things were kind
This
of
is
changing
coming
up
into this
every.
game. Maybe we will not.
Somebody's got their microphone on, I think. Um, else, like, yeah, road trip.
I don't have the specific details in front of me. Again, that's something that is not my department. That's going to be a question for Digvijay, which I will ask him if he's got any firmer timelines on that. But I believe he's off this week, so I'm not getting you an answer this week. So let's see. Uh, Julie, can you hear me now? Did you get your voice working? Said she was switching over to Vivox. Shouldn't have to switch over. It should
Yeah,
just
no, I
be
got it.
okay.
I got it
Great.
working. No, yeah,
What?
but I checked it, but then I just rebooted for good measure, so I relogged. So
Oh, okay, great. So,
yeah,
well,
no
glad.
worries. I got a
Welcome. Glad you
question
could
for you.
join us.
Thank you.
Okay, go for it.
So, are you so on the pricing, packaging, and all that kind of stuff? I know that's ongoing, but do you have a estimated date, time when you think the pricing stuff is? When are you guys saying, "Hey, we got to get the pricing out by such and such date"? Packaging.
Um,
Is there a, "Hey, we got to do it by next week"? "Hey, we got to do it by next
we we
month"?
we
Like,
we we do have an internal target date for that. As far as there's a bunch of things in regards to pricing that we want to that we're looking at. We want to reconsider, add new options for, change the way we're approaching it. Um, there's again, it's not really for me. That's a question for Digvijay, which I think he's on an you're on an email chain with him. We talked about that recently.
yeah, I'm
But
just sort
it
of asking for like a feel, like is it month or is it soon? Like and I can bring it up with him again. I am on a daily pulse on that.
yeah,
So I got people crawling up my, you know what. I also, along with that, oh really? Interesting. Okay, so that's not good news for me.
no,
Um,
no, it's going to be much sooner than that. Our target date is much sooner than that. We're are hoping to have all of that sorted out within like the next 6 to 8 weeks kind of thing.
okay.
Some of it'll be coming in stages probably. Some of it will be happening before others.
Can I
So
ask a question related to that? There's two related. Tracking, when you have new packages like for pricing, uh, so every person has said to me, I need to be able to track. So I want to track with my packages, and I would like a web report. We've talked about that before. Is that
sure.
still coming? I mean, how's the curator, or more like the admin interface coming? Is that coming with these
Yeah,
new
that
packages?
that's part of it. That's one of the things we are looking at. Is because this applies to a lot of things that both services that we have we're trying to launch now, as well as perhaps bringing some older services, as well as some future stuff we have planned. Is we want to really change the way our system tracks that information and handles that information. For like your clients, for example. One of the options we want to have is not just individual pricing plans, but also grid level pricing plans, so that if somebody wants to use world streaming for their grid, that individual users can be like, yeah, I want to have 10 hours of world streaming a month. Or you could say, I want anybody on my grid to be able to draw from a pool of 100 hours a month or something like that. And that kind of stuff would be tracked. Obviously, we have to track it for usage purposes, and that information would be available in Curator as well. Like, oh, you've used X number of minutes or hours this month of this service or whatever. So that is part of the whole thing we're looking at is um, because we need that for things just like using Agora on the main grid, using the world streaming system. We've got some other stuff that we want to kind of tie into that system. So we want a generic. Here's personal level subscriptions and grid level subscriptions, and this is where you are on those. This is how much you've used, how much you have left, etc. She was
Yeah,
also
just
saying,
just the training, right? Like if you do
yeah,
anything with it that you have to record, like some of my clients, because they bill clients that use I have like a triple, very B2B, right? So, it's the notion of it can get right down to the person too, right?
sure,
This
yeah,
person was in here this long, ironclad, for sure we know they were here, and it's not always about contacting. Sometimes it's about fulfilling requirements to be
sure,
somewhere.
absolutely,
So
yeah, no, absolutely.
would that come with the packaging, or is that a separate topic for you guys? When you say, yeah, we're looking at it, I mean, is that got any
Well,
feel for when or?
well, there's a couple of aspects to that. Like one is, from from the work that we've done with you, that we can generate reports as far as like, this user was here, they actually, they attended this event or whatever. So that kind of tracking would just be something that, we can
Yeah, you got
expose
a
in
web front
Curator.
end. Yeah,
Yeah,
cool.
it's
Yep.
it's there. We would just need to build a web front end for it. That is something we want to do, where you can actually track users on an individual basis for those other grids. Obviously, we wouldn't, on the main grid. That's something we would have access to as platform administrators, but it's not something we're going to let people on the main grid track what other users are doing. That would very much be, you know, if you've got a separate grid and you're an administrator of that separate grid, then you would be able to run reports as far as, oh, Julie was here, she was here for 15 minutes, on this date at this time kind of thing. Because it is useful for a lot of purposes. It's not just training purposes, it's useful for like educational purposes. Did this person even come to class? That and then like I said, there's promotional things like, oh, this person was here, I should contact them, whatever. So there's dozens of potential uses for that kind of information, and we do want to expose a reporting interface for that for grid level administrators. It's that's as far as ETA goes on that. That's I don't have any like a solid date for you, but that is something that we have on our roadmap to expose in Curator. We would be putting that basic capability on Curator. We could also expose it via API, if that seemed. We would have to be careful about that because we don't, people, if it's on Curator, then we can control how that information's processed, how much information's made available, and how frequently it's accessed and stuff. If we made an API for it, we'd have to be very careful about building in those similar limitations. Like we wouldn't want somebody just hammering it for, big reports all the time. It would have to have some kind of like rate limit on it, that kind of thing. But we can certainly talk about doing that as well. Yeah, yeah, we very much want to have as much basic functionality built into Curator as possible, and if there's some custom functionality that needs to go on top of that, then absolutely we can talk APIs or custom functionality or something like that. But we do want to have at least standard custom or standard basic implementations of everything available in Curator, and that includes the subscriptions, the user reporting, all that kind of stuff, which I realize is probably not particularly interesting stuff to people on the main grid here, but it
It's
is part
very
of the platform.
interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's one of the things like, let's say we I don't know if that's something like that would ever be applicable to the main grid, other than for our purposes. But it's something that is applicable to the platform as a whole. Okay, so I guess that answers that. We'll pick back up when we have some actual. We'll get some dates for you, and as we move forward on that, we'll keep you in the loop. And anybody else who's interested, we can talk about it at future gatherings or whatever. But that is stuff that we're working on, and some of that will apply to the main grid, like the subscription model and things like that. That's changing, so that if people want to use like Agora on the main grid, to hold, classes or whatever, then we'll have a built-in way for you to do that, and probably pay for it with gold if you want to, and just because that makes it easy. You can just draw from your gold pool.
Hey, Josh, Sidearm here. One reason I find it interesting is because at the founders meeting, Rowan did a pretty good overview, I felt, about how at the beginning of 2020 they were going to start the big marketing blitz, and then the uncertainties in the environment and so forth. And then recently he seemed to imply that there's another round of funding now under their belts, and they're feeling resumed confidence, and they're getting ready to kind of resume, and he called it pushing the big red button.
Sure.
So the feedback after we discussed this, if you could just pass this along, because I know you're best buds, could you please call it the big green button? Push the big green button, because pushing the big red button has negative connotations.
Other connotations.
Yes, the green button. Over.
Okay, gotcha. The big green go button. I will pass that along. I don't think that's terminology that we're necessarily going to be using a great deal anyway. But I will let him know. Yeah, the big red button is the wrong one. Um,
And the connection again is that if you're when you're ready to do pricing packages like Julian's talking about, that to me that's part of the green button. You guys are feeling confident in the overall suite, and it's the main grid is ready to go for newcomers and makers and consumers, and it's ready for white label clients as well. So to me, they're strongly connected.
okay, yeah. I'll pass along that bit of feedback. Like I said, I don't know you'll see it written down anywhere, but who knows? Maybe you will. Julie is asking questions about the VR changes, improvements, adjustments coming to the VR client. Just as I realize the terminology there is just so we're clear. The VR client's not a separate client; it's the same client. It's just VR is built into it. I realize you know that. Other people may not. So we're not doing separate work on a separate VR client. It's just the regular client has VR capability built into it, and so it's that VR feature set. As far as upcoming changes, improvements, adjustments to it, that is something we want to get back to in the near future. We talked about this a little bit, I think, at on Friday, I believe it was, um, which is one of the big things in VR now, of course, is that everybody wants the untethered VR headsets. They're not as good as the tethered VR headsets in terms of like their graphical capability and the frame rates they can reach and that sort of thing. But untethered VR headsets are just so convenient. It's what everybody wants to go to. And the most popular one, like the Oculus Quest, um, is fundamentally it's a smartphone built into the headset. It's an Android smartphone. So our next kind of major push on that is we'd like to get Science running on the VR Quest, so that you can install that APK directly into the Quest and experience that VR directly without having to be attached to a computer. That's most of the people who want to use VR in Science. That's what they keep asking us for. Is Quest support. Jamie, uh, Jamie's asking what percentage of members, I assume you mean Science members, are using VR. Um, I don't have a percentage for you as far as like I don't know that we track anywhere whether people are using the viewer in VR or not, because like I said, it is the same viewer. It is likely a small percentage, just because VR is a small percentage of users in general. It's why it's not been a huge focus for us. When I first joined the company, revamping the VR feature set was one of the first things that I did last year, like early spring, summer of last year. Um, and that's how I sort of acclimated myself to the Science code base, which is something is fairly normal that we do. Is when we onboard a new engineer, we give them a project, and that project lets them learn the ins and outs of our particular Unity setup, lets them learn the ins and outs of our code base and that sort of thing, and gives them something substantial to do to contribute. So my sort of onboarding project when I first joined Science was a major update to the VR feature set, because it had been kind of broken for a long time. As a result, I'm kind of the VR guy at the moment here in on our engineering team. We'd like to hire somebody to kind of be like the VR person rather than me, who's doing a bunch of different things. But this is why the VR system, we got it to a working point, and it hasn't really gotten a lot of additional features or work since then, just because not a lot of people use it. We do have some very interesting use cases for it, on like especially on white label grids and stuff like that for specific projects. And we have a lot of people who are interested in doing more projects with it. But up until now, it hasn't really been a development priority for us. We do want to keep moving on it going forward because VR is getting more accessible, more people are getting it, especially because of the untethered headsets. It doesn't matter whether you have a Mac or a Windows machine or how good your graphics card is, that kind of thing. If you get one of the untethered headsets and everything is built to target that untethered headset's capability, then you can know that everybody who has that headset is having the same experience. And it doesn't require them to buy a $500 headset and then also a $2,000 computer. They can have a $500 computer and a $500 headset and VR if they want to. So it is getting more accessible. It is getting more mainstream, although it is still probably single-digit percentage of gamers who even have a VR headset. Are you, yeah, that is an ongoing issue. VR headsets are getting more comfortable. They're also getting easier to set up. There are a lot of educators who actually are using them. There's some other use cases, like we were talking to some people professionally who use them, like architects who will have incorporated VR into some sort of their architectural workflow. Because it gives them the ability to, design something and then walk through it. And so there are some real substantial benefits to using VR in certain special cases. It is a challenge, though. You're right. For people, some people it makes them sick. If you have a low resolution headset, like especially like the older Vive, it can get eye straining after a while. The newer ones are much better with the higher resolution displays. So yeah, it's kind of hit and miss. Some people, it's challenging for them to use. If you're trying to use it for long periods, like you said, some people find the headsets very uncomfortable. Some headsets are more uncomfortable than others. But overall, the VR sort of ecosphere is improving. Headsets are getting higher resolution, less eye strain. They're getting better quality. They're getting more comfortable to wear. They're getting lighter weight. They're getting easier to set up. So you know, we were kind of early adopters. Up until now, everybody's kind of been early adopters of VR in terms of supporting it. It is a very tiny percentage of people, but it is growing. It is starting to cascade. It is going to reach a point where a lot of people do want it, and it's something that we want to continue to support and iterate on. Yeah, I don't know that I agree with that. Cindy saying the current state of VR hasn't changed much since 2004. It's actually changed quite a lot since 2004. Like I said, the headsets are improving dramatically. A VR headset from a few years ago, even compared to a VR headset that you can get now, is way different, way better, way easier to use. And really, it's what you can do in that VR space really comes down to the amount of power, amount of processing power and memory that you can put behind it, because it has that dual rendering requirement. Rob doesn't like VR and doesn't want to use it, which is fine. Not everybody is going to be interested in VR. There will be long-term benefits. There will be a growing VR user base. I realize it is small now, but it is going to get bigger, and it's going to get bigger steadily. And it's probably going to reach a point like most technology does, where it stops being sort of a niche early adopter toy and starts going mainstream. Most technology goes through that that sort of cycle, and it is coming to VR as well, I believe. Yeah. Sidearm has seen videos of people absolutely scared, thinking they were walking on a real tightrope. Yeah, like I said, as the VR headsets are improved, it's really quite an interesting experience. Even if you just load up like the default Oculus Home um, region, which is like a house on a cliff, and you walk over and look down the cliff. That was my first VR, and I actually got vertigo looking down over the cliff in VR because the headsets are quite that good. That was with the Rift S, which has a much higher resolution display. I also have a Vive, and it has a much lower resolution display, the original Vive, and it has some benefits. But as far as the visual quality and the comfortableness of wearing it, it's nowhere near what the Rift S is, and the Rift S is even not as good as some newer headsets. Mm. We have we have some no VR diehards in the chat in the region here today. which is fine. We want to support both. Nobody's obligated to use one or the other. However, I do think it will become increasingly important to the platform as a whole, especially over the next year or two. It's getting there. It's been slow, but it's getting there. Uh, 20 years, no, I don't. I think we're gonna have um, a mainstream VR push well ahead of 20 years. I'm thinking in the next couple of years, it's going to become something that's much more commonplace for people to have an untethered VR headset laying around. The ones that you can like slot your phone into are terrible, but the dedicated ones are actually getting quite good now. Yeah, as Julie said, all of her clients right now are asking for VR. There's I think the people who um, are in the room here are probably just don't run in circles where VR is important, but there are markets segments where VR is becoming very important and very useful. Yes, they're well aware of the cost. I'm not. Oh yeah, yeah. Julie is making a good point. Is that unlike other services, we don't require that everybody be in VR or everybody not be in VR. We can mix and match. You can have, some people show up in VR and other people show up in desktop, and they're in the same region. They're interacting in the same way. They can see each other. Even desktop users can see the VR users waving their arms and doing that kind of stuff. And the VR users can see the desktop users and talk to them, and it's all um, it's all integrated and fluid. So it's something that we really value as far as our VR implementation. That's the reason it's built into the same client and uses the same system. It does, yeah, mixed effect text does affect the UI design, but not as much as you would imagine. The only difference is that VR users need a world space UI if you are relying on like a screen space UI attached to the screen. VR users won't see those like heads up displays. But if you need to have both VR and desktop users at the same time, you just have one world space UI and one screen space UI, and that's all you really need. Typically, what we do is, I've built quite a few myself where you load into the region, and if you put on a VR headset, it attaches a world space UI to your wrist so that you have it with you wherever you go. It's quite easy to do. Um, Sidearm asks, what sort of VR headsets do we use and support? Um, I personally have a Rift S and the original Vive. I believe that I'm slated to get a Quest in the near future. Adam has a whole bunch of different varieties. He's got like a WMR headset, and he's got Rifts and Vives as well, and some other stuff like Kinects and things like that, which get into the virtual reality space as well, or at least into the motion capture space. It uses the same internal technology in the viewer. So we have quite a range. I don't think anybody at the company has an index yet, but we should probably pick one up in the near future if we can find one that's not sold out.
Okay, so if I have a user that's having trouble with their Quest headset, I will make an issue tracker and then it could be responded to.
Yeah, I mean the Quest does come in well, it doesn't come in two flavors, but it has two functions. The Quest can be used standalone, or after the Quest came out, they later released a link cable that lets you use it as a tethered headset. And so if they do have right now, it should work in the tethered mode. It will not work in the untethered mode. So if they've got it in tethered mode where it's actually connected to their computer via cable, and they're having trouble with it, then yeah, let us know. A typical problem that comes there is if you go into the VR settings and you have a bunch of options turned on for equipment that you don't have, like Vive trackers and Kinects and things like that. Sometimes if it's looking for a device you don't have, it can interfere with devices that you do have. So it would just turn off anything that you don't currently have plugged into your computer. Yeah, we support tethered mode now. It should work in tethered mode. but the untethered mode is what we want to do next. Is getting it so you can unplug that cable and still work. They added a cable to it so that you can use it like a regular tethered headset where it's powered off of the computer and the computer sends the images through. And then there's the untethered mode where you install Sciencebase directly into the headset, unplug it, and you can walk around with it running an Android version of the software inside your headset. There's an echo going on someplace. I don't hear an echo, so I guess that's not my problem. Oh, text echo. Okay. So let's move on from VR, I guess, because as noted before, it is a bit of a small percentage base of the users are going to be interested in that. Just as a sum up to that, we haven't. So the original question was, what's new, what's coming, what's changed recently? Nothing's changed recently. It's there, it works, but it hasn't been a focus of ours for development at all this year, and not really much since last summer. Just because it's not that many people were using it, and there wasn't really anything that we wanted to add to it at that time that was ready. We had other higher priorities, so we do want to get back to it. We do want to add new features to it, but I can't give you an ETA on that right now. The world streaming WebRTC stuff was was the more important thing to work on this year. Yeah, growth area. I absolutely agree that it is going to be a growth area. Yeah, and if somebody's interested in having an ongoing discussion of how to implement a VR-friendly region, I'm happy to, have arrange a talk with that, to have a chat on Discord, whatever. But you are going to have, on the main grid, you're probably going to attract like 2 or 3 people to start off with. Okay, so we've got about 10 minutes left here. If anybody has any questions that I've missed, feel free to throw them back in assembly. I realize we got off onto a big VR tangent there, so if you want to bring me back to something that I missed before, feel free to throw that in there.
Search and shop. Search and shop.
Oh, right, the all search. That is. Actually, we were talking about that last week. I think there was some concern about the UI becoming unusable the more tabs we add to it. So there was some talk about changing the UI. I'm going to see if I can just get an all tab added in there real fast just to have it. But I don't think there's any major technical hurdles to that. It's just something we have to assign somebody to sit down and do that. I will try and push that through it before next week, but I can't make any promises because I know it is something that keeps coming up, and it would be super useful to have. Even our own website allows that, so it would be nice to have that same functionality inside the shop window.
Also, okay, what about, is there a way from the in-world shop to click and it'll take you to the website shop? Maybe there is.
I don't know off the top of my head. Let me see.
That would solve it.
Yeah, I think the in-world stuff stays in. It just keeps you within the same window, and the outworld stuff keeps you within that. So, I mean, if you just go to sign.space/
I know
shop.
that link. So anyway,
Yeah.
I'm just going to tie this to the big green button idea, which is I am proud to say started to buy stuff and set it out in my home region. Don't faint. And I've discovered there's lots of things available in the shop that I had no idea how to find. I had to ask people like Karsten and Mimi, and they told me blah, 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 blah. And they're always in some category that I never would have guessed. Why, that's in furniture. Teleport is in furniture. Got it. Or, Snowball is in gesture. Got it. Okay. So, the search, the all search, that's kind of the reason I ask about that. Now, if you could just add a web shop link, the web shop link, then I would just go there, since you're saying it already has more features. The trouble is, I am used to looking for, when I'm in the world, buying stuff, I look in the world. I don't think about.
Yeah, I don't think we want to be shuffling people back and forth between the in-world store and the out-world store. We offer both options, but I think we generally speaking, we would rather just have parity between the stores. If we allow an all search on the website, which we do, that's actually the default. Then we should have an all search in the in-world version too. I don't really see any benefit to adding an option to take you to the website from in-world and then try and get you back in. That's a confusing user experience. I would rather just go ahead and add the alt tab and go from there on that. So let
Okay.
me follow up. Let me chase up on that and see if we
That's
can
fine.
implement that. I realize it's been a popular request for months now. It's just one of those things where it's like the team that typically does that sort of stuff we've just kept putting higher priority stuff on their plate, and so it keeps getting pushed down, which is
anything involving UX.
Well, it's a BGB issue, big green button. But I want to also compliment you all because you have somewhere in releases you have fixed the scroll chat issue. Two people have tested it for me today. I scrolled to the top of region chat and then they each typed something in at the bottom and I was not yanked to the
Yeah.
bottom.
Yeah,
Yay,
I asked.
thank you.
I asked Eric to fix that last week, I think. So, or it might have been a week before that. I think that fix came out in either 2B58 or 2B59. It was something that I specifically asked Eric to take care of because he's the one that has previously been working on the chat, so he was most familiar with it. So I was like, please just go in there and turn that off because it's driving everybody nuts. So you're welcome on that. We're trying to tackle some of these quality of life issues. I think Adam may have popped into the chat into the region here someplace, but he's very quiet. I just heard him a second ago, but I'm not sure where I was hearing him from. Anyway, yeah, so that's fixed. I want to do the copy paste, or at least the copy issue next. I don't think at the moment you can still copy out of chat. You can click links now. The scrolling issue is taken care of. I do want to get the ability to copy out text, specific text messages from there, dump them into your clipboard, because that's a major issue. And there's Adam. He might still be connecting to Vivox here. He wanted to be here earlier, but he had a meeting that he had cross-scheduled with office hours. So I'm glad he could join us at the end here. Adam, can you hear us? Adam?
Just a second.
You're very quiet, but we heard that one. Yeah, you can blame Adam for that one. The reason we were holding 2B60 was for those camera controls, and those are now there. We're doing that build. It should be coming out in the next day or two. It probably won't be 2B60 at this point. It'll probably be like 2B61 or 2B62, but it is coming out. The version numbers are sort of ephemeral. Yeah, there you are. You're still pretty quiet, but I can hear you.
Which microphone is using today? I have got 5 microphones. I cannot tell you which one.
No, I don't know. Like I said, we can hear you, but you're probably about at a third normal volume.
How about that?
Much better.
Okay, so it's my damn Connect. Joy!
It's using your Connect microphone. we just had a question from Sidearm about what VR equipment people had, and I was telling them that you had a Connect, and here you are talking to your Connect microphone.
Yeah, no choice. Apparently, just picks whichever microphone it wants to use randomly.
We really need to update that Vivox implementation.
Oh yes, yeah. Actually, we're already working on that one.
Yep.
It should, in theory, fix up quality with Vivox. There's a lot of voice quality in the current SDK is rubbish.
Yeah, that's something that I hadn't mentioned yet. Actually, as we're doing an overhaul of our Vivox voice system. They've released a much newer version of it, which is hopefully going to solve a lot of issues for us: voice quality, microphone selection. We want to get spatial audio working with Vivox, that kind of stuff. But the old Vivox SDK that we're on right now, widely regarded as not a good one, but it was one we were stuck with for a while. But now they've got a new one out. Do you want to add anything in here, Adam, or does anybody have any questions for Adam that you want to throw in the chat there? We can go a little bit long here. The thing that I had immediately after this has been postponed to tomorrow, so I've got an extra few minutes if people want to hang around.
I'll just make a comment that you'll probably get less flack if you tell us every time you add a new feature, like we got rid of the scroll chat bug, instead of accidentally finding out about it. Full credit. Dixie showed it to me this morning.
that
You
that
guys-
that is
full
something
credit.
we've
There's a release notes page, right? It's in,
Do we-
it's pinned in the Discord for, I think it's the Editor Package channel. Yeah. I that one there.
Yeah, the problem with that is, I guess it does show historical changes. Yeah, it's not. I think people probably don't realize that they can go and look at editor pack changes and get the change log for the viewer too, because they're actually the same.
The Editor
But we
Package
should
log
probably,
from the viewer.
yeah, we should probably promote that more somewhere.
Yes, but that actually tells you what's in at least half the changes. I think, yeah, it's about half the changes are generally not flagged as public.
Yeah, a lot of changes that happen when we commit changes to the viewer, we have to tag them as either a bug fix or a feature addition, or they can get tagged with an internal tag so they don't show up in our public release notes. Not just because it's not there's a limited list on there. It's like, oh, we specifically want people to know about this or that. But there's hundreds of commits that don't actually show up on there because it would just be spam and it wouldn't make any sense and is not useful information for the general public to know.
Yeah, like I just did some changes earlier today to window. Have no impact whatsoever on you guys, but
Yeah, some changes just aren't worth publicly talking about because we would just be explaining internal stuff that has no visible effect to you. So it's just kind of wasting everybody's time to have it there taking up space, wondering what is that. There's a question to address. There was some chatter here about the 3 different websites. There are 3 different websites to download viewers from, and sometimes they can be confusing. I see some people who are confused on that issue. We have the live one, of course, which is the release viewer. We have the preview.sign.space, which is essentially our release candidate viewers. They're our beta viewers. They're viewers that we anticipate moving to live. And then there are staging viewers, which are much more sort of nightly builds, may not be as stable as the preview viewers, may have experimental features, may be more broken. They may have more bugs if we're actively working on something. So it's a good way to kind of get in and and kind of see what we're currently working on. But I would hesitate to kind of push that as like, oh yeah, everybody should go get staging. That's not what it's for.
Staging viewer is use at your own.
Yeah, staging viewers very much use at your own risk.
I do have one for Adam, and this is already in the issue tracker. I took you at your word, Adam.
Tracker, that's great.
So the Mac 57 download latest, I have a newcomer who it will not recognize, SignSpace will not recognize their microphone. It does. We met in Second Life and verified the device worked okay. It recognized their built-in microphone and their plug-in headphone. In SignSpace, it recognizes their headphone. It will not pick up in mic. And I took screenshots and it's in the issue tracker. I think Les has it, but just FYI, there is an issue even on 57 for Mac mic.
Is this on Vivox, I assume, right? Using the standard built-in microphone button at the bottom right of the screen. It may be picking up a different input device on his computer than his microphone.
Yeah, so I took a screenshot where it says, on the new 57, there's the pop-up on settings device.
Yeah, that actually doesn't do anything for Vivox right now. Those at the moment only affect Agora functionality, and that's due to a bug in the Vivox SDK, which goes back to what we were talking about 5 minutes ago. Is the Vivox SDK is broken, and we're in the process of replacing it for the new one. Okay. And when we do, those will work at that point.
I'm trying to follow the proper diagnostic track. So you're telling me Second Life does not use Vivox the way that SignSpace uses Vivox.
Second Life uses an old version, very old version.
Yeah, they use a different SDK than what we're using.
Yeah, we use Vivox 5, which is their newer one, but it's had a lot of problems with.
Okay, so my request is please it's an issue tracker, please address it. And I already have a second newcomer who has the same issue, different Mac, same issue. We met in Second Life, it worked. So something in some SDK about Vivox works.
If it's on the issue tracker, there will be someone looking at it.
Yay.
I guess you guys don't see all the issue tickets.
You're kind of cutting out in and out there a little bit, Adam. This goes to our what we were talking about earlier about Vivox.
Yes.
This version of the Vivox SDK is crap, and it's why we're getting rid of it now that we finally have another option to go with. And all of these issues are rolled into that upgrade. Like it's not just swap out the Vivox SDK and go on with life. Part of swapping out the SDK is okay, we can sort out the device issues, we can sort out the spatial audio problems. You know, there's a lot of stuff that is both reason and beneficiary of us doing this SDK update.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to getting rid of it. Getting rid of the old Vivox SDK. I'm a bit annoyed that they told us that it was ready when clearly it isn't. But the new one, I'm hoping fixes that, and then we can start looking at exposing some of the features and things that exist. We're not giving to the public yet.
Yeah.
Also, in terms... Hello. Oh.
Yeah, we can hear you. You cut out a little for a couple seconds there.
Yeah. No. Case in point, it does not like.
Yeah.
Me.
Yeah. Doesn't like Australia.
No, it seems to be just me specifically. Maybe try another computer. Anyway, I think the big thing that everyone's going to be looking forward to tomorrow is the new camera stuff. There is a dozen plus options. There's spam options. I have missed something. Please.
Yeah, we're getting like every fourth word from you there, Adam. Just kind of reiterate that the new camera options coming tomorrow. There is dozens of options in there. There's some of them that are kind of global viewer options for you, and then there's some of them that are profile camera options, which are things that you can turn into inventory items and share those around. But if there's anything that we missed that you wanted, let us know. We think we got everything that was previously requested, but it's actually, now that the system's in there, it's pretty easy to add new options straight away. Yeah, voice is problematic. It's the biggest issue we have whenever we're setting up events or trying to to bring in new users or something. Is getting their microphone and headset and stuff set up properly, because everybody's got a different set of hardware and everybody's got different input devices. Like the problem Adam and I have typically is, going back to what we were talking about the VR earlier, anybody who's got a VR headset plug-in has a whole separate set of microphones and speakers as part of their VR headset. And so their computer's like, well, you've got 4 microphones and 10 output options. Which one are you using? Which one's the default? Which one gets picked up by default from Vivox? Are you still there, Adam?
Yes, I am here. I'm just being quiet since I'm breaking up.
Okay, just wanted to make sure you weren't talking and we weren't hearing you.
Just I wasn't sure when you mentioned you are looking at the new voice. Is that going to be in 2B61 or is that still down the road, like the big green button?
I
I
down
think
the road. The new Vivox SDK is probably going to take us another sort of 2 weeks to get done, but it will come out at some point.
it's a much bigger job than simply throwing away the old SDK and adding the new one, because they work differently. Their Vivox is, it may not seem like it, but the voice system is actually deeply ingrained in a bunch of different systems. A bunch of things touch it. It has to be touched like whenever you're changing regions. It's touched from various administrative control panels, like the ability to mute users. There's a bunch of networking that goes along with that. It's tied into the particular voice zones that you're in. There's just a whole bunch of stuff that impacts and touches on the voice system, and device selection and settings and all of that. So it has to be kind of peel out the old SDK's tendrils and then put the new one in and kind of reattach everything, and lots of testing.
That's fair. I get it. I'm going to preface this next thing because it's also on your list, and I know you know it. Just y'all, I'm using Big Green Button BGB as kind of a code name for. I feel like based on Rowan's comments at the founders meeting, it seems like there's a new confidence that ScienceSpace will kind of start the big marketing again. I think he said somewhere by end 2020 or begin 2021. I'm trying not to put words in his mouth, but I'm pretty sure he gave that as a range. So I'm working with folks now in their events and some new event hosts, like Jamie for one, and Karsten for another, who's not so new anymore, but he's pretty new. where newcomers are coming in and we're helping them with things like the Mac mic issue and so forth. So when I bring up things now, Joshua, to me, these are things I feel are, big green button user related. Now,
Sure.
caveat, I'm not a maker like Gabby and several Karsten and others. So I don't tend Cindy and Galen. So I don't tend to focus so much on the maker side. So I give them just as much importance in my mind because they're populating the store, and that's just as important a BGB issue as the other stuff. So that all said,
I will say, all the stuff that you're talking about, like running events and stuff, like that's super important to us too. It's super important to a lot of people who are using our platform, both on the main grid and in the white label space, in the enterprise space. So those kinds of same issues that you're having onboarding users, especially Mac users, through the web, through the desktop, through the mobile, through whatever. That's a big focus for us, is improving and simplifying that onboarding process.
and
And
I want to say kudos for the new community meet thingy because that's where we're able to dig into these. We just met again yesterday, so that is a big step forward. I'm just here's the thing I'll bring up that's techie: direct teleport to event from the community event calendar.
right.
And that's another one of those embedded things you told us that's going to take a while to disentangle. And
It's not actually going to take us a while to disentangle. The
oh
issue
yeah,
there is we have a whole new event system. So it's kind of like we've been propping up the old temporary event system, which is based off of Google Calendar, and it has some limitations using an outside calendar system. And so we actually have an entirely new event system that we've been working on. It has not been as high a priority as other things, unfortunately, which is why it hasn't been finished yet. But it's not, I don't think, a major technical hurdle or anything. It's just a matter of, it's one of those things where you have to go, okay, sit down. This is the priority for the next 3 days. We have to, put 2-3 people on this, and not pull them off onto other things. This has to be what they're doing, to try and sort it out. I believe, Adam, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's mostly done. It just needs some testing and some additional bug fixing.
That is correct. Actually, I think it's on the website already, the new system.
It's just not been pulled in world yet.
Yeah, is the create stuff there? I can't see it.
I'm looking at under community events. Is that the one we're looking for?
Yeah, under community and events. Just as long as
Yeah, I see some test events there. Yeah, it's just full of test events right now. So yeah, that apparently
Hey
we're
Josh, this is Julie. Could you
Hey.
just so I understand this conversation, because I have clients that register and come in from websites on the
Sure.
white label side, what exactly are you talking about? Are you going from a region to another region on an event?
No,
board
we're
or
talking
something? What's the-
we're talking about when you click on the community button at the bottom of the screen and go to the events tab.
Oh, in world already. Okay.
Yeah,
got it.
yeah.
For some reason, I was like, wait, does this register?
Yeah, no, the issue here is that when people set up their own events, then those events get added to the calendar, and there's a button that's supposed to be there that says enter, and it's supposed to take you straight to the event. There's a limitation built into the system right now where that only works for regions that are also on the featured tab. If there's not a featured region, when you press the enter button, nothing happens. And obviously we can't feature every region, so people may want to run events in their own region or whatever, and an event for it goes on the calendar, but then pressing the enter button doesn't work. It doesn't take there. They have to try and manually find it themselves. So it's an issue for new users coming to events, or people trying to attract users to their own events that aren't established events that we are featuring ourselves. So we have a whole new event system it's going to replace that entire tab, that feeds off the same source as the one we're apparently live testing on the website. At least it's on the staging website. I'm not sure if it's on the live website or not here. I guess the one on the live website is still the old one. So the new one is actually on. If you go to staging.sign.space and go to the events tab, you'll see that it's different than the one on live. So that's where we're testing that new events version. Yeah. The current live website, sign.space, is still using the Google Calendar. And if you go to staging.sign.space, that's where you can see some test events where we're pulling from the new event system. And when we have that new event system in, it won't require regions to be featured. Everything should work pretty straightforward. Oh, I didn't even know that was a thing. Apparently, if you mouse over the clock at the top, it shows multiple time zones.
Oh, awesome.
Since apparently that was added in 2B50, I didn't even know about that feature.
Another undocumented feature. Good
Right.
job. Yay.
I
Hey.
added that feature 3 years ago, and
Really?
it got broken because of a Unity bug with their time zone database. And at some point recently, Unity actually fixed it.
Oh, okay. So that was a freebie fix we got as a result of a recent Unity upgrade. All right.
Yeah, it's actually been available on Mac for a while.
Yeah.
Mac is looking for
What I
that
would
feature.
like to do is give users the option to pick which one of those is the one that shows by default. Surely we can do that if we have all of them in there anyway.
Yes, we could. We could.
That's actually a feature that's been requested quite a lot at both a grid level
Is it on
and
the
an
issue
individual
tracker?
user level. I don't know. It comes up sometimes here it's come up from a lot of our enterprise clients. It's come up here in Tech Hours a few times. If it's not an issue tracker, then I'm assigning Paul to put it in issue tracker.
Oh, great, Paul.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
He'll be here all week. It does show Pacific, Eastern, and Central Europe. I'm assuming it does not show my time.
Yeah,
zone, though.
we need to add a way for you to pick the time zones that show there, and then pick which one is the default one that shows at the top. That's something that, like I said, it comes up from time to time. People, there is value in having a centralized grid time that everybody is on a single reference point. But a lot of people are like, no, like the events in the calendar, for example, show up in your local time zone, but the clock at the top is in UTC, so it's not really useful for that purpose, because it's like, oh, this event says 2 o'clock, but that's not 2 o'clock when the top clock says 2 o'clock. It's 5 o'clock when the top clock says, so it's kind of confusing. Math makes sidearms eyes hurt, so obviously we should fix that.
Okay, so those are two thingies. One is the where did I lost track here? One is the new event calendar system, and that is on its way already, closer. And then the other was I forget what it was. There's another just going to take a while. Search and no, I've lost track.
So there's all search and shop. There's the new event system, and then there's the Vivox upgrade, which will allow device selection and things like that. Those are three big things that really would go
Vivox
along.
is probably later, like end the year, maybe.
No, Vivox we're hoping weeks, not months. But it's I can't give you a hard date on it because sometimes you get in there and it's like, oh, this took longer than we expected because X, Y, and Z happened, or I had to make an emergency to left turn over here to go fix something else that became higher priority, a bigger bug or something. So sometimes those dates can shift and move around, but we suspect it's going to take us a couple of weeks to get the Vivox thing sorted out. But when we do, like I said, hopefully that will mean that those device selectors work for Vivox, not just Agora, and also we want to get spatial audio working along with it. So it should be a much bigger update. There's always a bigger bug, Adam says. That's true. There's always a bigger bug. If we were all in an office, I'd print that out and post it on a wall someplace. Yeah, Sidearm's hard date is end of 2020 for things. Yeah, we're. I believe you are correct that Rowan mentioned at the founders meeting that was kind of internally we're targeting that sort of end of year, new year sort of transition, where we're going to revisit our plans for this year that we were going to start off with before COVID happened and the world fell apart. And hopefully we'll be in a place to do that. And those three things you've mentioned are really important for especially new users coming in. Old users, or at least pro users, people who are have an above average level of technical savvy can kind of navigate around these issues, and they're annoyances, but they're not blockers. But for new users or casual users, then these can seriously be just like, oh, you know what, I don't care, I'm just closing this and walking away, and we want to minimize that as much as possible. Yeah, COVID has been good for virtual worlds, Rob. All of them. And for us, that has taken the form of we just had a massive increase in demand for people who are like, I was going to do a convention or an expo or a training session or a class or something in the real world, and they can't do that anymore. And so they're coming and pounding on our gates over here, going, please let me do a virtual convention or something like that. So yeah, the demand for all virtual services has just skyrocketed, and it looks like it's going to be that way for a while. Um, just because we're probably at least 6 months away from having some kind of viable vaccine, and then who knows after that point, manufacturing, distribution. It's all of the experts are saying that we might be in this for another year before things start to turn back to normal. So who knows? Um,
Karsten and Space Rocks. Look at that.
Yeah, so I was just reading that one. Karsten wants to update Space Rocks to be networked. Um, is there any way to set synced physics doodads to only sync one way, and speeding up the network code? That's something we can look at, Karsten. We can have a look at what you're doing and have a discussion around that. We don't want to too much flood the network, although I will say, I think Adam talked about this in one of the last couple of weeks. Adam's actually working on a whole new revamp of our server subsystem that runs the regions, and part of that is a massive networking overhaul. And I think the performance that we're getting out of the new networking system is miles beyond what the old networking system was giving us. So it may make
it's
sense that
tons better. Yeah,
yeah,
it's hundreds
or,
of times faster.
yeah, orders of magnitude faster. So it's very likely that when we drop that's a soon with no ETA on it, but we do have some kind of semi-hard deadlines we have to meet with that. So when that happens, when that drops, then yeah, we can totally revisit everything that does network syncing, and say, maybe we can afford to double or triple the rate at which these updates happen, and get a smoother experience. One of the things that I'm really interested in is I want to improve the network syncing for vehicles specifically, because they at the moment throttle down their network updates quite significantly the more people show up in a region. And so a couple people in a region driving cars is pretty okay. You get 20 people in a region driving cars, and the network rate will start to slow down where where the cars start to appear more less in sync, let's say, because they're having to update their predictive models on the local machines more. So when we have the new networking system in, I would love to take a day and go through and like, yeah, this can go faster, that can go faster, and just sort of across the board smooth all that stuff out.
You know what? I have to say the VR stuff with vehicles is really awesome. That is by
It is a
far
lot of
the
fun.
best VR
Yeah.
feature.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. There's a couple things that feature-wise that I would like to add there. Of course, the individual car needs to have a world space, speedometer or something added to it, but that's not something we need to do. That's just something a particular car needs to be VR aware and have both a screen space and a world space VR on the dashboard that you can see, which it would be cool to have even if you're not having it in VR, because you can still see it out of VR. Um, the the other thing is, we need to add some more features around the way VR users attach to seats and objects. We need some kind of ability to like animate the lower half of the body as part of the seat, but not animate the upper half of the body, something like that, so that users attach to cars better. At the moment, VR cars are best if there's an option on cars. If you say just hide the avatar altogether and you just become the car instead of being in the car, and doing that is a lot of fun. Yeah, it's Julie's fault that VR got brought up again. We'll blame her. Yeah, I want to like put together like a whole VR battles car region, just like everybody in VR cars, or not if they want to join the desktop. But they're probably going to get their rear ends kicked by people in VR just because of the ability to so precisely aim in VR. But I would love to be able to like jump into VR and drive cars around and shoot it out with the other cars. One of the things that I'm really looking forward on that is the 2019 update, just because the not only are we improving the performance of our server, but the 2019 viewer update, 2019 Unity comes with some substantial performance gains as well. We do support controllers. You can hook up a game controller right now and drive your avatar around with it, and it works on cars as well. No, a game. Well, I mean, I guess it depends. For me, a game controller is like the worst possible way to aim a weapon of any kind. I do not play PlayStations and Xboxes or whatever for that reason, because you give me that little tiny thumbstick to aim a gun with, and I want to throw it through a window. Yeah, I cannot aim with a joystick. I can't aim a gun with a joystick on like FPS types games. Does not work for me. Give me a mouse and I'm great. Give me a thumbstick to aim a gun with, and I'm just gonna break it. It is very hard to text and drive in VR. That's true. Yeah, Xbox controllers are the gold standard on PCs, at least. Keyboard and mouse master race. I use a joystick when I'm for some things, like a controller is way better for driving a car than the mouse and keyboard is. It's terrible for aiming guns, but it's great for driving cars, or like space simulators or flight simulators or something. I have a regular joystick that I use for those. So, but yeah, when it comes to like an FPS aiming something, give me a mouse. So, guys, I've got a jet here in just a couple minutes because I have a meeting starting in about 6 minutes. We're way over time here. But if you guys have any last minute questions you want to throw at me or Adam, feel free. I don't know if Adam's going to be able to stick around longer. He's got other stuff to do as well.
Yes, afraid I'm going to have to disappear as well. I just came here because one of my meetings finished up early. So.
Yeah, unfortunately, I have a 1:30 meeting starting in a couple minutes, and then I have meetings for like the next 3 hours after that. Yeah, it's one of those days. Otherwise, so yeah, it is. Gosh, look at the time. So yeah, we went an hour and a half today, which is great. So thank you all for coming. So we want to mix up the formats a little bit from week to week. So I don't know what next week's format's going to be. That's Paul and the community team will figure that out. But I'll probably be here one way or the other. So we'll see everyone next week, and have a great weekend.
So yeah, thank you, Josh, for holding the last session, and just letting you all know that the stream is now being closed. Thanks for coming along, and we'll see you soon. Cheers. Bye.